Chapter 138 to 140. Year 762, November 2nd. On the planet of North Kai. Incredible. This is incredible. Kaiosama food tastes like shit in comparison. Goku screamed and cried when he tasted for the first time during the year of training food prepared by Broly. Damn ungrateful bastard. I won't cook anything for you again, North Kai replied, who felt belittled despite the effort and love he had put into cooking for his best student without expecting to receive anything in return. Of course, this is food prepared by a god, but a real god, not like Kaio-chan. I'm not trying to showing off or flatter myself, but I'm the best cook of all universes. When I was a 4-year-old rookie and with shitty ingredients from the planet Vegeta, I was able to make the god of destruction Beerus and Wish lick their fingers and asked to repeat several times. Ha 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 ha. I was so good that even the gods lined up to eat what I cooked. But now, hee hee hee. I doubt they were able to leave my dining room in their infinite lives, Broly said, that despite not wanting to show off, he was doing it too much. Have you cooked for Beerus-sama? You are insane. And you are still live. North Kai shouted, who jumped out of his seat when he heard about Beerus, and not without reason, since he destroyed almost all his planet due to a simple change of mood. This was a fascinating conversation with very useful data to memorize and worry about, but Goku hadn't been paying attention for a long time. Broly's food was something out of this world, and beyond as well, and Goku was eating it as if he had been starving for months and someone threatened him with stealing that food away in a few seconds. And it wasn't surprising, this had been the long-awaited reward that Broly once promised Goku to graduate from training before the Great Battle. During that time, in the same way as in the original version, Goku managed to catch Bubbles, and to Broly's surprise, he also hit Gregory with the hammer. He wasn't surprised that he hit him, since it is something that happened in the anime, but only in the anime. In the manga this tertiary character didn't even exist, which made our hero wonder exactly what characters would appear from now on. After that, he learned the Kaioken and the Genkidama as it was planned to happen, and since he still had a lot of free time thanks to the half year that Broly had saved him, Goku was able to train twice as long. And with that extra time, Goku constantly challenged Broly to have a training match with him, several times a day, fights in which he was losing loudly even though Broly gave him extraordinary advantages, although that made him improve little by little too. Fightings in which he lost spectacularly despite Broly giving him extraordinary advantages. Something that would depress any sane person, but, it's Goku we're talking about, this just motivated him more and more. And thanks to those beatings he also improved. Aw. I had never eaten so well and so much in my life, Goku shouted as he stretched out on the grass of the little planet with great fatigue. He had eaten so much that his stomach had inflated to ridiculous levels, so much that he could barely move. Well, I'll go clean and scrub the dishes this time, but don't get used to it, said Broly, carrying the dishes inside the small house with telekinesis, and began cleaning without using his hands which were occupied with his mobile phone. Goku, I am very proud of your progress. I am completely sure that you will not even need to resort to Genkidama in the fight tomorrow, only with a Kaioken will it be enough to beat you if it gets dangerous, North Kai said, congratulating his student and placing his trust in him. But suddenly... What? Oh shit. I didn't think about the time it's going to take you to get back using the Snake Road, North Kai exulted, which didn't take into account the time it would take him to walk back to the place of departure for Kami to pick him up. Kaiosama, ain't you able to, like, fly me back to Earth or something? Goku asked, very worried, since he had understood that North Kai had considered that little detail when he traced his plan of train him until the arrival of the Saiyans. No, I. Don't worry, in 2 days you will be able to arrive, and I will tell the god of the earth to come for you at the end of the Snake Road, hesitated Kaiosama, who was being prey to his own uselessness and felt responsible and overwhelmed for that. Even so, it's still 1 day too late. Everyone's gonna be killed, Goku shouted, understanding the possible consequences of being late. Don't yell at me. Even I make mistakes sometimes. Now, hurry up and tell your friends on Earth to use the Dragon Balls to bring you back to life. Put your hand on my back and tell them in your mind. North Kai shouted as he indicated to Goku what he had to do, while showing him his back. Really? In this way, Goku asked, fascinated by that supposed ability while following his instructions. Yeah, like that. Now, hurry up and tell them. Kaiosama said as he focused on establishing the telepathic connection. Came house at that precise moment. Bulma, Broly, Oolong, Yumagame and Puar were calmly and happily eating sweets that Broly had prepared for everyone. They were so good that even Puar, that he should be very angry with Broly and Bulma for what had happened with Yamcha, praised Broly every time he could and asked for more. So everyone was happy and happy I had that little party, until they started hearing noises in the bathroom. Bathroom where Mutant Rashi was reading his classic Plus 18 magazine. Goku? Is that you, Goku? Where? Where are you? Mutant Rashi said, looking for the origin of the voice he could only hear. The afterlife? Mutant Rashi said, very shocked. Why yeah, take away while ago. Broly and Bulma picked them up shortly after your death, Mutant Rashi said, answering a question. Yes, that Broly and Bulma, it's a long story. But why are you calling me now? Mutant Rashi said, answering a somewhat disturbing and spicy question. What? Already tomorrow? But that's 1 month earlier that I thought. Mutant Rashi shouted, very surprised and terrified. All right. Got it. So, what about you, Goku? Has your triaging in the afterlife been good? Mutant Rashi asked, worrying about his student. Really? Then I'm relieved, Mutant Rashi said, relieved to know that Goku was strong and prepared to fight. And of course that conversation that the rejuvenated Mutant Rashi was having with Goku was being heard by the partiers who were in that house. They could only hear a rejuvenated old man talking alone. I know. Is he becoming senile? Oolong asked, with his classic sarcastic anthropomorphic pig humor. This. Broly, your rejuvenation doesn't cure mental illness caused by age? Bulma asked, more worried about herself than Rashi, since both had received the same blessing from Broly. No, my ability is perfect, it must be some mental problem that is developing now. Maybe we'll have to put him in an asylum, Broly said jokingly, since he knew perfectly well that he was talking with Goku. Hey, we have to prepare the Dragon Balls right away. Shouted the young Mutant Rashi, who hadn't even put on his pants when he came out of the bathroom. Outside the Kame house. Now! Come forth, Shenlong! Mutant Rashi shouted in front of the 7 Dragon Balls. And with this invocation the sky of the entire world became dark, yes, at that time it was the whole world, not just Bulma City. Indicating Piccolo, Gohan, Ten, Chaos and the still depressed Yamcha that the moment of resurrection from Goku had arrived, and therefore the arrival of the Saiyans was very close. And after a few seconds of lightning and thunder to create expectation, Shenlong appeared. Tell me your wish. I will grant you but a single wish of any kind, said Shenlong to his regular customers. Hey, if we made a wish to kill the Saiyajin in order to savor the earth, that wouldn't be possible, would it? Asked Oolong, who was saying something practical and meaningful. What are you saying? Are you planning on leaving Sun-kun dead? Bulma yelled when she saw that Oolong, the third travel companion she had after Goku, was being so insensitive with his friend. That's not it. We can revive Goku the following year, said Oolong with a more than logical approach. Such a request is inconceivable. I have been created by God, I have to yield to him, so I cannot grant any wishes that transcends his own power, Shenlong said, explaining his limitations, which are not always very clear. As useless as ever, Broly said, surprising everyone, since in this time everyone was still very shocked and overwhelmed by the appearance of Shenlong and his impressive magical powers. Oh no, not you again, Shenron said, very worried and traumatized to remember Broly. Hey! What the hell is that expression? They all shouted upon see how the venerable and imposing dragon of the wishes cringed upon see Broly. This, honey. Why has Shenlong said and done that when he saw you? Asked Bulma, who sensed that her boyfriend had done something unorthodox in the past. It's nothing, honey, when I was little I asked him some wishes, but he was unable to fulfill them, and well, he was depressed by my comments and the excessive work I gave him. It's a long story, said Broly, omitting certain details. Yamcha, Cammy, even Shenlong. I'm afraid we have become friends with someone very problematic. I hope to like him and not be the next, Mutant Rashi thought, who got a good idea of what Broly was like. He wasn't bad, he wasn't good, but he was a great bastard. In that case, please bring Goku back to life. Mutant Rashi said, returning to the original plan. That's an easy request, Shenlong said, granting the wish in the usual way. And once the wish was granted, he also left in the usual way. And after a second of silence in which they were still shocked by the appearance of Shenlong, Broly spoke, but I don't understand one thing. You don't understand what? Puar asked. Well, I don't understand why you didn't ask Shenlong to take care of the Saiyans, said Broly, quite surprised and disappointed. This Broly-san. I don't know if you were listening, but But I proposed that and Shenlong explained why he couldn't grant it, Oolong said, explaining his feat while the others looked at Broly airy confused. Anyone would expect an error like this from an airhead like Goku, but not from someone who had proven to be as intelligent and attentive as Broly. I know, he can't kill someone more powerful than Kami. But you could have wished to destroy their spaceships, which are less powerful than Kami, therefore they would die in space by not having life support. Teleport them directly against a distant neutron star or a black hole, give you powers to deal with them, contact with someone very strong to kill them. Turn them in good people. Make the Earth invisible and unreachable for external threats. There are many alternatives that could help you with this matter without the need to kill them directly. Broly said, proposing his alternatives to improve the successful and coherent initiative of Oolong. Oh God is true. Everyone shouted at the same time to realize how foolish they had been to not realize that such a convenient possibility existed. Poor things, I know that most of them are not dumb, but Akira Toriyama made them like that just for these occasions. If not, the manga would have ended very easily, Broly thought, analyzing the failures and conveniences of the Dragon Ball script. Besides, if you wanted to resurrect Goku, I could have done it myself. I also have that power. Observe, Broly said as he made Raditz's body appear with the hole in his chest made by Piccolo, again, and brought him back to life, again. Ah! They all shouted as they stood behind Broly to see how Raditz got up. But when Raditz saw Broly... Ah! No! Not again. Please, don't resurrect me more. I prefer to be dead. Raditz shouted, completely terrified to see how he had been resurrected again to be a punching bag and be killed for the umpteenth time by the Namekian. But before he could cry, Broly returned him to his dimension. And after a few seconds of fright, another screams came. A scream full of anger. Honey, if you had in mind a wish that could have killed them easily and you could resurrect Goku from the beginning, why the hell didn't you tell us this before? Bulma yelled at her boyfriend with all her strength, and not without reason. I saw you so motivated to make a wish to Shinron that I didn't want to interfere. Besides, I also wanted to see him after so many years. And I thought you already knew that I could bring people back to life. Fuck, I can make them immortal, resurrect someone is something easier, said Broly, pretending that what he said was true. You don't fool me. Surely you have something planned for those Saiyans, and that's why you didn't want to get rid of them using Shenlong. Bulma said, still angry with her boyfriend for having lied to her, hide his plans, show that they were stupid, and for creating unnecessary problems. Fuck, it's right. When Akira Toriyama doesn't control her to make unnecessary inconsistencies, she is too insightful. I love this part of her, Broly thought as he looked at his angry girlfriend with more desire. Come on honey, don't be mad at me, you know that I do it with good purposes and that nothing bad will happen to the world or its inhabitants here, Broly said telepathically to Bulma, trying to calm her anger, showing a distressed expression with tearful puppy eyes. Give more pity. I know, but what you've done is still out of place. Don't believe even for a minute that I will forgive you easily, Bulma said in the telepathic conversation as she grumbled with her arms crossed and turned her back on Broly angrily. Come on darling. Don't get mad like that. What can I do to make you forgive me? I will do anything, Broly said telepathically again while trying to face Bulma to apologize very expressively. Anything? He. Well, I can think of a couple of things you could do to make me angry, Bulma replied telepathically, showing a sly smile, lovingly pinching Broly's arm. And while Broly and Bulma continued with the telepathic conversation, the rest watched that silent film representation. I don't know very well what they are saying telepathically again, but from what I see, Bulma has won. I'm glad to see that someone can contain him, Mutant Rashi thought, relieved to see that Bulma could contain the beast. On the planet of North Kai. Está bien. Your halo's gone, so you've been revived. Now go and finish them, Goku, but be cautious, they are very strong, said North Kai to say goodbye to Goku. Thanks for everything, Kaiosama. If I die again, I'll be sure to come and see you. Bubbles, Gregory. Take care, Goku said before getting off the small planet to cross the Snake Way, this time without help. And after a few seconds. Where has Goku gone? Broly asked, who had finished cleaning the dishes. Ah. Broly, I had forgotten you. Goku has just been revived and has gone to meet the Kami of his planet to arrive in time for battle, North Kai said, who for a few moments had forgotten that the most powerful and dangerous Saiyan was inside his home. Why did he do that? If he had waited for me, I would have teleported him at his home in the same way I got here, Broly said, pointing out the obvious. Shit. It's true, there was that option. Shit. Where do I have my head today? Quick then, go find him or else he will not arrive on time, nor Kai to complain about his continuous dismissals while proposing a solution. Really? I wanted your help right now to build the custom car of your dream. It's a shame, we'll have to wait for about 18 years until I'm back in the mood for that. Broly said, making a terrible blackmail at all levels. Custom car. 18 years? Well, from another perspective, Goku didn't cross the snake way to get here, so he should at least return with his own effort as compensation. But this time without bombs or strange surprises, North Kai said, trying to make excuses for not losing the opportunity to have the car he always wanted at cost zero. He. And in this way the protagonist will be late again. More than enough time to have fun. I'm a genius, Broly thought with a malevolent face as he removed several bombs from some car parts. 762 AD. November 3, 11:43 AM. Came house. As such, the cause of this huge earthquake is completely unknown. Furthermore, many are worried about the safety of the citizens of Eastern Capital, which is thought to be the epicenter of this earthquake. Don't fuck with me. No, it can't be true. Excuse me. Last news. Our envoy has arrived in Eastern Capital and what he has found is what you can see, the entire city together with all its inhabitants has disappeared. All that remains is that crater, said the TV host of the news while Broly, Bulma, Rashi, Oolong, Puar, and Yumagame paid attention to him through Master Rashi's television. They're here. The Saiyans are here, Mutant Rashi shouted hatefully upon see what they had done to the city. Please, we shouldn't jump to hasty conclusions. The Saiyans may not be the cause of this destruction. Not all misfortunes have to be the fault of the aliens in this world. You are intolerable racists full of prejudices. To prove you wrong, I will reveal the truth. Some time ago I learned a skill from my teacher that allows me to rewind 2 minutes in the past, without altering the timelines, but I have modified to allow me rewind more time, but leaving memories of the ones affected by this skill intact, Broly said, who was outraged to see the prejudices that his friends had against the aliens, especially against the Saiyan, since he was one of them. That you can do what? Bulma shouted, which wasn't aware of the millions of skills his boyfriend had. And in a few seconds. What the hells is happening? The crater that used to be Eastern Capital has now become Eastern Capital again, and all its inhabitants are there. It's a miracle. As some of the inhabitants of the city inform us. 5 flying objects landed and 5 strangers appeared from them, and after that a great explosion occurred. It seems as if we had been attacked by terrifying aliens. What? I can't say that until it's 100% confirmed. Fuck John. How more evidences do you want? It's same as that happened with King Piccolo years ago. That I need to calm down. Fuck with the professionalism, John. We're going to die. Everyone. Are you unable to see it? We are going through technical difficulties, please don't change the channel, informed the television news presenter while discussing with the production and directive staff. And after that statement everyone stared at Broly intensely with their eyes narrowed. Okay. You are right. It seems that the Saiyans were to blame. Mea culpa. Broly said after making sure they had been to bring humor to that tense situation. Don't be a clown, people had died, Bulma said, scolding her boyfriend slightly. Incredible, said Mutant Rashi, appreciating Broly's incredible mass resurrection skill. And before Bulma suggested that everyone should help in the battle as in the original version. Honey, I know what you're going to say, but I don't think it's a good idea. The best thing will be for non-combatants to stay here, Broly said telepathically to Bulma. Why, honey? I don't feel comfortable being here comfortably while the others are in danger. Also, being with you there is no danger for me, Bulma answered Broly through the same telepathic channel. I know, but others shouldn't know. And if you go there very surely I will be forced to help, Broly said telepathically once again to remind Bulma of the reason why he had apparently trained almost everyone. Okay, be careful. But don't think I'm happy with this, Bulma said telepathically with great difficulty for having to give up her idea. Well guys, it seems our meeting will be televised, stay here. Master Rashi and me will go to with Gohan, Piccolo, and the others. Those 5 will follow the largest sources of power and without a doubt they are the ones with more power, despite the fact that I told them to camouflage their energy, said Broly saying goodbye to others while touching Rashi's shoulder. By the way Rashi, don't say a word of my resurrection capabilities to others or I won't give you that pornographic reality virtual machine that I promised you, Broly whispered to Master Rashi in his ear to keep a secret. Don't worry, my lips are sealed. He. Mutant Rashi said as they rose in the sky to meet others. In the mythical open field where Goku and Vegeta fought, Gohan, Piccolo awaited the arrival of the Saiyans, who were heading towards them, and while Krillin reached their position. Wow, you look exactly like Goku when he was a kid, Krillin said when he met Gohan after his hard training with Broly and Piccolo. You're small, but strong, right? Father often said that. You're going to fifth alongside us, right? Gohan said enthusiastically, that like almost all the children didn't know what they should say or not. Did Goku really say that? Krillin said somewhat hurt by that positive comment. The chit-chat ends there. They have arrived, said Piccolo, who with his incredible senses of green alien located the 5 Saiyans in the sky. He, there he is. Looks like it's gone from on shrimp to 3 strong-looking shrimps. Nappa said arrogantly as he watched the 3 Earthlings. A bald dwarf, and a bald green man. Perfect. One more time I have to fight against ugly guys, said Ginger, the scandalous girl of the group. Stop saying stupid things, let us thoroughly introduce ourselves to them. It looks like they've been waiting for us, Vegeta said leading the group down to the ground. That's correct. Just to verify, you are her for the Dragon Balls, right? Said Piccolo, who remembered the big mistake Broly told him when he talked about the Dragon Balls in front of the Raditz communicator. That's right, and by your voice seems to be that you killed Raditz and gave us that incredible information. Scallion said, that for some reason he couldn't forget the voice of who killed his direct competition. And then Nappa realized something interesting, he's a Namekian? Looks like he is, Vegeta and Yam answered at the same time, since they had realized at the first when they saw him, then it's no wonder I managed to kill Raditz. Namekian? Piccolo repeated very confused, he didn't know what he meant. Yes, my dear Piccolo. You and Kami are from a planet called Namek. One of the most incredible races of this universe due to its fighting capacity that stands out from the average, intelligence, regeneration capacity, fusion between them and especially for their magical powers, being the creation of Dragon Balls the best of them although it's a power reserved to very few. And don't feel offended my green apprentice, but I don't think you're one of the chosen ones. But don't be discouraged, there are still reasons to live, Broly said in a humorous and carefree way as he appeared behind them along with the young mutant Rashi. Broly. Mutant Rashi-sama. This guy is the Kame Sennin. Is very young now, said Krillin, and Gohan, who was surprised to see the new mutant Rashi. So I'm not from this planet. Wait. If you knew it, why didn't you tell me before? Piccolo said that after a few seconds of existential crisis he recovered his tiredness towards Broly. Hey. Didn't Kami tell you? I thought you already knew, Broly said, pretending surprise in a very exaggerated. Oh ho, there is a very cute girl. And there is also a very well-endowed woman, oh Huel. Mutant Rashi said when he appeared, who was ignoring that shocking revelation for other reasons. Oh, 2 more annoying insects. Exactly, he is. That tail. Nappa shouted when he saw that the 3-eyed muscular man had Saiyon's tail just like them. A Saiyan? Another one? Vegeta asked rhetorically at the same time due to this unexpected event. Isn't Kakarot supposed to have died, the father of that child? Ah, I get it, they have resurrected him, said Scallion, who thought he had solved the puzzle. No, he's not my father, said Gohan, who was trying to clear up the misunderstanding. So there was another traitor Saiyan on this planet? Yam said analyzing the situation. He's not bad. It would be nice if he joined us. And he seems funny too, said Ginger, who appreciated Broly's intrinsic qualities. Just a moment. He has a 3rd eye, said Scallion, who couldn't take his eyes off that disturbing detail. Seriously? Go, it's true. Ha. I hadn't noticed, I usually don't judge men by the forehead, Ginger said as he looked at the height, biceps, pecs, abs, and hair of Broly, while her sister sent him a withering look indicating that he should shut up and stop having that shameless attitude. A Saiyan with a 3rd eye. Ah yes. I remember. Paragus' son was born with that malformation, therefore, King Vegeta put him in quarantine to be studied. I think his name was Broly, But I don't remember being sent to this or another planet before the destruction of the planet Vegeta. Nappa said, that despite not being very smart he had a good memory for certain things. I see that I am famous. I'm going to turn red. Just a moment. Malformation. And you tell me now. And the one who tells me is someone without a medical degree? Broly said in an exaggerated, over-expressive way and with sudden mood swings, as if he were participating in a comedy film starring Leslie Nielsen. And of course the attitude, behavior and childish, funny and even stupid voice tone that Broly was exhibiting surprised those who knew him. This, Mutant Rashi-sama, did something happen before you came? Broly is acting weird. I mean, weirder than usual. Krillin asked, who had never seen that facet of Broly. Broly-sensei. I'm sure you're planning something, Gohan thought, who quickly related the more or less strange behavior of his teachers with some brilliant and absurd ploy. And of course the personality that Broly was showing also baffled the newcomers Saiyans, whose impression of Broly was a clown. Yam said, which didn't tolerate unreliable behaviors. And although everyone and especially Vegeta shared that opinion, the Prince Saiyan ignored it for now. Hey you. Broly, right? I don't know how you ended up on this planet, why are you teamed with this inferior species or why you haven't exterminated them yet, but I can ignore all that if you join us. Having more people on the team would be nice, especially after the death of Raditz and the non-incorporation of his weak brothers, Vegeta said, focusing on his work in hiring personnel, the reason why Raditz came to Earth at first. Oh, such kindness. Thank you very much for the offer, but I'm afraid that for now I don't want to change of job. For now I feel very comfortable around here, but in the event that one day the circumstances change I will give you my phone number and email so you can contact me. But don't count on me to exterminate living beings from other planets to sell the planet later. I haven't studied so many years to devote myself to something with so little added value outside my area of expertise, Broly said, denying Vegeta's offer with grace and etiquette, and sarcasm, as always. Bastard. Nappa said, very angry for the excessive level of sarcasm and mockery that Broly had exposed. That stupid aberration is laughing at us, Scallion said, quite offended, still looking at Broly's third eye. What a disappointment, he doesn't know what's good for him, said Ginger, who said goodbye to the idea of seeing Broly on the team. Ha ha ha, he not only acts like a clown. He has also shown that is a clown. Let him laugh while he can. I would like to check if he has such a good sense of humor while he dies like the other traitor, Vegeta said, that despite bothering Broly's braggy and arrogant attitude, he wasn't enraged, he understood that this attitude and ignorance was because that Saiyans was thrown away from his civilization. Therefore, he would personally enjoy showing Broly through torture that his arrogance was stupid and laughable. And on the other hand, Yam tried to measure Broly's power with her tracker, but without success. 1000 of power, 800, 1200, 900, 1400. He's playing with us, it's not as useless as it seems. Right, take off your scouter, Vegeta said as he took off his scouter and left it on the ground. What? Ginger, Nappa, and Scallion asked, who didn't seem to understand something very basic. These guys change their battle power according to the battle. These numbers are just unreliable, if you are attentive to the number you will be deceived and die just like the idiot and weak Raditz. Yam said that like Vegeta she was the other intelligent Saiyan of the group. That Raditz was weak? Shout Krillin, who couldn't believe that someone who could only be defeated with the cooperation between Piccolo and Goku's sacrifice and with Goku's sacrifice was weak. That's right. Why don't we see these guys in action? Hey, Nappa. There are 6 Saibamen left. Right? Take him out, Vegeta said, ordering his lifelong henchmen to plant some devilish dwarfs. Vegeta, so you like to play games too, said Nappa, who understood what his prince's intentions were as he began to plant them quickly. Saibamen? What are those? Asked Krillin, Piccolo, Rashi and Gohan. Hey guys, we missed something important. Said Ten Shinhan and Chaos as they arrived. Hello everyone, my friends. Hello to you too, Broly. Said Yamcha, who wore another wig and a big grudge, but still came to fight. Ho ho Yamcha my friend. It's been a long time since I saw your hair, since the day when you screwed up at Bulma's house, Broly said, adding salt to the wound. And after a few seconds. Hi 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 hi. From the ground 6 Saibamen appeared, who watched with hostility and eager to kill the 8 enemies of their masters. TT those guys give me the creeps. Krillin said, expressing his rejection of different species. Hia 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 hia. They are 8 and the Saibamen are only 6, it's a shame, if we had 2 more things would be more fun, Vegeta said, regretting that his Pokemon fighter wasn't exactly symmetrical. Don't count with me, I've just come here to watch, have fun, supervise my student who is still doing practices and to moderate this event, among other things. I will not participate in the fight, and for that case Gohan either. I want to monitor your warm-up before the actual combat. If you don't mind, of course. Broly said as he grabbed Gohan as if he were a puppy ready to be vaccinated and separated him from the group before everyone's incomprehension. Eesh. What does this mean? Said all the Z warriors at once and some of the Saiyans, who found the traitor's attitude as very unusual. Broly, what the hell are you planning now? Piccolo wondered, who sensed he was planning something Machiavellian. Great. For now I will not have to fight, Gohan thought, which wasn't very belligerent and didn't get depressed by staying on the bench for the moment. It doesn't matter, you will die equally, but thanks for your consideration. Now we can make the game I wanted from the beginning. Since you are 6 against 6. Why don't you take turns going to them one-on-one? Vegeta said, who was still determined to see how the Z warriors die by the hands of his killer cauliflowers. A game? Bullshit. Come to fight at once and let's finish this, Piccolo said, very angry by being underestimated. Hey, come one Piccolo. It'll be favorable for us. Goku isn't here yet, you know, said Krillin, appealing to the reason and strategy, trying to gaining time for reinforcements to come. Okay. I'll go first, Yamcha said, who with great anger took the first step instead of 10. Yamcha. They all said to see that Yamcha had offered to fight first. I've had a very hard few months, guys. I need to vent against something, and those green things seem perfect, Yamcha said, with great bitterness and frustration as he looked at the Saibamen with hate imagining they were Broly. Ha, you wouldn't be so cocky if you knew how strong Saibamen are, Nappa said, not believing that any of the Earthlings have the slightest chance against their cauliflowers. Nothing happens, Nappa, it's fun to watch matched matches. But it's more fun to see arrogant idiots being slaughtered by simple minions, Scallion said, appealing to his inferiority complex, since he wasn't much stronger than a Saibaman. Desire Realm. Broly Mansion Movie Theater. Once again all the minions recruited by Broly were in the room, this time excited by the promise to see fighting. Broly, what are you planning to do in these games? Why did you take Gohan out of the fight? I thought you wanted him to have a lot of prominence in the story. Kars asked, who was also a big fan of organizing deadly games. Yes, it's a pretty irrelevant scene, why don't we go directly to combat with the other Saiyans? Said Kamagawa, who wanted a fight against non-green and dwarf people. And Broly, sitting on his golden throne eating popcorn, gave a big sarcastic smile, fuck, I swore not to do spoilers. The answer is simple. It is not yet time for him to appear. Ha 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 ha. With this game I went to do 3 things. The first is... Fuck, I swore not to do spoilers. The answer is simple. It is not yet time for him to appear. Ha 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 ha. With this game I went to do 3 things. The first is... Make humans relevant again in Dragon Ball. From Dragon Ball Z or even from Dragon Ball, the role of humans was increasingly secondary until at some point they were absolutely useless, except for Bulma whose scientific contribution was unquestionable, the others only hindered. Only the Saiyans, half Saiyans, and sometimes Piccolo, had the right to shine minimally in combat. And later in Super not even that. Only Goku and Vegeta did something, and Bulma of course, if it wasn't for her they and everyone would be eating shit. And all what happened with the future Trunks in the anime doesn't count. That shit didn't make the slightest sense. I don't want to let great characters like Ten, Krillin and Rashi stay in a corner gathering dust, Broly said, exposing the mistakes that Akira Toriyama had had with his secondary characters, who, like Naruto's secondary characters, were sadly forgotten, except Shikamaru and Gaiseniai. Oh, that means that you have made some adjustments in those 3 to give us an interesting fight? Asked Midora, Madara, Ihiko and Wamu, who were eager to see a fight in that world. Yes, after all, that's why I brought them to the form realm for extra training. I hope they can put into practice what I taught them, said Broly, answering to his fighting lover's subordinates. And the second reason? Some asked. Because my dear student right now has a most difficult and dangerous battle than the one the 5 Saiyans can offer. I prefer that he focus on that rather than the fight, for the moment, Broly said, splitting the screen to allow 2 channels to be watched at the same time. Came House. Gohan. What does that mean? Chi-Chi shouted, which had just arrived with her father and son at Bulma's house to watch the broadcast together, when she suddenly saw her son on screen, and that made her practically transform into an ogre with an overdose of methamphetamines who have been infected with rabies while asking for an explanation. This, Mom, everything has an explanation, you see. Curse. Broly-sensei never prepared me for this, babbled and thought Gohan, very scared and regretful while trying to find a way to calm his angry mother. Oh, is this Broly's body multiplication ability? He has taught you how to do it. Bulma said, which was surprised to see the two Gohan but quickly understood why, and wanted to provide information to Trake Chi-Chi. But Chi-Chi completely ignored her, her multiplied son and her anger are the only things that existed in this world for her. Explanation. Can I know why there are two of you and one of them is in that place so dangerous fighting against monsters? Start explaining that. Shouted Chi-Chi, who had never felt so angry, confused, betrayed and scared in her life. Yes, even more so than when Goku died, and was on the verge of a mental breakdown. And Gohan, obviously following Broly's advice, decided to face this situation in the most mature, masculine and responsible way possible. Or maybe not. This. I'm sorry. Mom, then I'll ask for your forgiveness and accept your punishment later. Gohan said as he snubbed his clone of 1% power to return it to the main body and flee bravely from that complicated family situation. Place of the fight at that precise moment. Gohan's body power grew by 1% of power suddenly and also changed his expression from one that showed fear to another that showed a lot of fear and guilt, something that almost no one noticed, except his beloved teacher, who gave him a little pep talk. You have behaved like a coward, Broly told his student, criticizing the lack of courage and tranquility he had when he tried to reason and talk with his mother. Yes, I know. This. Broly-sensei, can you talk with my mother later? I had never seen her as angry as now. Maybe you could say something to calm her down, said Gohan, who acknowledged his mistake and asked for help to his partner and intellectual actor in crime. Nope, your mother scares me. FIU. Gohan, be a man and face your problems. FIU. Broly said sarcastically as he whistled carelessly, looking in the opposite direction of his student. MMMGGGGG. Broly Senii. Meanie. Gohan said, on the verge of crying to see how his always reliable sensei had gotten him into this problem and wasn't going to help him to face the most dangerous being in the world, his angry mother. He felt betrayed and helpless, and frustrated to see how his teacher considered all this a funny joke. Come on. Where is that confident attitude of when you met your mother the first time after my training? Come on, don't look at me like that. I've made some sushi. Do you want some? Broly said, taking out 2 sushi boxes and 2 chopsticks of his dimension and offering some to Gohan. Broly-sensei, you can't fix everything with food, Gohan said, trying to remain angry while accepting his teacher's sushi reluctantly. Where did that stupid get that strange food? Asked Scallion, who was constantly surprised of how strange Broly was. Ha 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 ha. Vegeta-san, we should bring this guy with us. He's a clown, but he seems to know. Aish, Nei-san. Ginger complained, which was reprimanded by her older sister upon seeing that Broly's attitude was negatively influencing her subordinates too, especially her most direct subordinate. And Vegeta, seeing that Broly with his stupidities was altering the rhythm of his game, shouted loudly while sending a murderous look to his group and Broly. Sufficient, Charla. You'll go first. Kill him, Vegeta said, complaining that Broly seemed not to take anything seriously, while giving instructions to his Pokemon. And just when Vegeta said those words, the fight between Saibaman 1 and the angry Yamcha began. Jaya. The Saibaman advanced towards Yamcha to attack him, but Yamcha at high speed appeared next to the confused Saibaman, who received a wolf punch in his stomach, pushing him back several meters. But before he could compose himself, Yamcha advanced towards him with great fury, beating him once after another without truce. Hi. Hua. Hiya. And unlike the original version, Yamcha on this occasion was fighting the Saibaman with total superiority, discharging all the rage accumulated so far in the green alien once after another. Wow. Yamcha has improved since the last time we met a few months ago. He hasn't been with his arms crossed. Krillin said, impressed with how well he was fighting. And he also attacks very violently. Said Ten Shinhan, who thought that he knew the origin of his anger and the desire to kill. And not only Ten, everyone sensed that it was, that's why they stared daggers at Broly. And Broly, seeing that everybody was staring at him with hostility, assumed a solemn attitude worthy of an ancient Murin master and said, oh ho ho. I knew he just lacked some motivation to improve. He didn't disappoint my expectations. Oh, wow. I made him stronger without wanting to. This could be a problem. And while the audience was talking, the fighting continued with the typical sequence of Dragon Ball fighting. Sequence that it was impossible to follow with mortal eyes, so much that the brave cameras and reporters who had ventured to that dangerous place to retransmit to the whole world the confrontation between the aliens and Earthlings were unable to see anything. Until Yamcha was able to evade one of the Saibaman's attacks to position himself behind him, at normal speed and visible to the cameras. And attacked with the easiest technique to emulate on this universe. Kamehameha. Boom. And with the technique with more copyright infringements of the manga, Yamcha managed to hit the Saibaman, damaging and propelling him against the ground, creating a crater where the body of the Saibaman stayed. Great. The Earthlings shouted both on this plane and from their homes upon see that the first battle had been won by the humanity. TSH, they have lost the first match. Scallon said, who worried a lot about since he is the weakest of the five. Oh, they will entertain us more than I thought, Ginger said upon see that was possible that she had the opportunity to have fun later. Impossible. Saibaman have a battle power of 1200. The combat power of those who defeated Raditz, who at that time were the strongest on the planet, didn't even reach 1000. What's going on? Nappa shouted when he saw and understood this mathematical nonsense. It's simple, during that year they have trained to exceed 1000 points. It's simple math, said Yam, who took the words from Vegeta's mouth, but he didn't care too much. Moreover, he seemed delighted that someone assisted him with the logical explanations. Come on, you can't blame Nappa. He is absolutely right. It makes no sense that some guys who are almost in their 30s, that less than a year ago had a power of 200 or less, have managed to multiply it by 10 with the same training that Goku had followed for years in only one fucking year. This doesn't have fucking sense. Broly thought, who sympathized with Nappa for the first time, seeing that he also found this absurd. And after beating the devilish green dwarf, Yamcha turned to Vegeta and company and said in a very angry and arrogant way, it seems that these disgusting monsters weren't as strong as you declared. I'll take care of them 5 remaining. HM. It is true that we have underestimated you, but it seems that it is now you who underestimate the Saibaman, Vegeta said sarcastically. And just saying those words. In a timely manner, the Saibaman that everyone considered dead jumped from the crater and stuck to the body of the unsuspecting Yamcha, immobilizing his arms and legs. What? They all shouted to see how the green dwarf came back to life and stuck to Yamcha. Shit, Yamcha shouted when he saw how careless he had been. But he never imagined the consequences. Boom. Since the Saibaman used self-destruction. Yes, that's good, Vegeta said upon see that happened exactly what he anticipated. No. Yamcha. Everyone shouted with great concern, all, except Piccolo, upon see that Yamcha had suffered a very dangerous explosion. And when the smoke dispersed, all that could be seen was smoking crater with remnants of the self-destroyed Saibaman and Yamcha, who was lying on the ground in his already famous posture. And as in the original version, Krillin went to check in what state his friend was, and the answer was he's dead. Came house. Yamcha-sama, 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 Yamcha-sama. Puar yelled disconsolately against the television upon see how his best friend had died. Yamcha. Bulma sighed, very grieved and hurt when she saw that Yamcha had died. She was his ex, but she didn't hate him to the point of wanting him dead or something mildly bad. Broly, what are you doing? You weren't supposed to protect them. Again on the battlefield. Damn it all. Damn it all. What am I gonna tell Puar and Bull? Tell only to Puar. Shouted Krillin, who was still next to Yamcha's body. Krillin, boys, don't get upset. This is the first time Yamcha has died. He can still be resurrected with the Dragon Balls, Mutant Rashi said, to reassure the rest and make them concentrate on the following battles. OMG. They killed Yamcha. You, bastards. Broly said angrily, wiping off from his face the smile and relaxed attitude he had before. This surprised the group of bald people, who believed that Broly had something against Yamcha from the beginning. But seeing that their suffering was equal to or greater than them, they quickly understood that it wasn't like that. That Broly had nothing against him, didn't want anything bad to happen to him either. They understood that he had simply been strict and hard with him, as he had said before, to motivate him, since he always cowered with women, played baseball or did anything else that wasn't to train. It was possible that he and Yajirobe were punished precisely for this reason. Now that Yamcha has been bald, fewer women knocked on his door, and that's why he had to focus on his training. And as for Broly, it was possible that he felt guilty for having left him bald and taking off his girlfriend, or he could even feel guilty for not being able to protect him. This made everyone look at Broly in another way and with more respect, as if he weren't a strange alien who appeared out of nowhere and altered their lives in strange, improbable, and mysterious ways. But as one of the group, Broly, I'm sorry I doubted you, everyone thought except Piccolo and Gohan upon see the great act of humanity that Broly was showing. But in reality, Desire Realm. Movie theater, again. Ha 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 ha. The meme. The fucking meme. I just saw live the creation of the Dragon Ball Master meme. Ha 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 ha. Broly said as he fell to the floor laughing while freezing the screen to continue seeing the image of the defeated and dead Yamcha. This have no sense, that attack had the necessary strength to kill the monster with a single blow, and indeed he was dead. But, mysteriously he came back to life, Midora said, who was attentive to the fight even though it seemed low level for him. Broly, do you have anything to do with the sudden resurrection of that demon? Asked Frozy, who had a slight suspicion of what had happened. Why don't we keep watching the fight? Broly said suddenly as he looked from side to side in a suspiciously way. Forecourt of the planet Earth again. While everyone, except for Piccolo and the Saiyans, were affected by Yamcha's death. Hey, it's filthy now, so how about you clean up the trash? Vegeta said referring to Yamcha's corpse. You asshole. Krillin shouted very angry, so much that several veins became visible in his bright bald head. And before Krillin, possessed by an unlimited rage, took the lead to kill all the Saibamen. Vegeta. Nobody has told you that your voice is annoying to the ears? Broly said once more in a funny way as before, but adding some anger and hostility to his now annoying voice. And Nappa, as his personal servant, came to the defense of his master, damn traitor. How dare you? Shut up, Nappa. What happened? Have you felt offended my words? Are you sad about the pathetic death of your friend? Any real Saiyan would not feel the slightest grief or appreciation for someone so pathetic and useless that is unable to kill a weak Saibaman. How low you have fallen, you and that Kakarot. Vegeta said, showing how despotic and cruel he was at that time, both with his enemies and his allies. And while the Z warriors felt disgusted by Vegeta's words. Bastard. Someone from their own side started laughing. Ha 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 ha. And indeed that someone was Broly, who started laughing like crazy. Broly-san. Broly-sensei. Why are you laughing like that? Thing that surprised in that situation, although of all of them he was the only one who could laugh at that time. But still they didn't understand. I don't remember what I said was so funny. Vegeta asked sarcastically and very annoyed at Broly's ridiculous laugh, while in the rest of the Saiyans believed that Broly had gone mad, or at least more mad than minutes before. Yes, it was a very funny comment, especially coming from you little prince, Broly said with his mocking voice as he materialized a handkerchief to wipe away the tears that fell from his 3 eyes. N. The Saiyans overreacted upon listening and seeing Broly's words and attitude. Especially considering the number of times I made you low. Ehem. I mean. You lost pathetically against these green bugs in the past. Does that mean you are a pathetic and useless being that would be better dead than alive? Should I end your sufferings? Vegeta. Broly said with a threatening voice and attitude while taking a piece of sushi into his mouth. This change of attitude and voice of Broly, which progressively changed from being a circus jester to a gangster in the middle of an execution, surprised the Saiyans group, who were shocked and alerted upon understand that Broly quite possibly would have been tricking them from the beginning, pretending he was an idiot to make Tem lower his guard against him. However, the message contained in his last intervention weighed more on the ears of the 5 Saiyans than Broly's personality change. What is that nonsense? Exclaimed Scallion, Ginger and Yam, who didn't understand or could believe in that story. However, when they looked at Nappa, they saw that something was wrong. How? How can you know that? Nappa shouted, since he was with Vegeta in his trainings when he was young and he knew that something like this happened. However, that was something that the Prince and King Vegeta ordered to keep an absolute secret, since it was humiliating for the Prince. The people who knew it could count on the fingers of one hand. Special because these incidents were also classified as the work of the ghost of planet Vegeta. What did you just said? Vegeta said in a very threatening and serious way, nothing to do with the arrogant, confident and calm attitude he had until now. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.